Welcome viewers to the Personal Injury Law Show. My name's Tony Carbone. I'm a personal injury lawyer of many years. And next to me I've got John Carancis, another personal injury lawyer of quite a few years. Good evening, John.
Evening, Tony. Evening, viewers.
And tonight, as our guest, we've got Nadia Gretsch.
Good evening.
A trainee that's chiropractor, come lawyer.
Chiropractor and just graduated from a law degree, so trainee.
Dr. Gretsch.
Dr. Gretsch. Welcome, thank you. Welcome, viewers.
Anyway, Tony, what news do we have this week?
Well, before I get to that, John, tonight's subject is about hospital bungles, or all the things that can go wrong in the hospital system. And just on that subject, I've got a story here of a fellow in Townsville who had an industrial accident in 2008. He went to hospital to be treated for his injuries, and what they did was they gave him the wrong type of blood. Instead of giving him an O positive, he was transfused they gave him an A positive blood transfusion. What's happening, mate?
Did he survive?
Yeah, he survived.
And I think he's pretty lucky to have survived. Well, what it looks like is that somewhere in the hospital something went wrong. He was given different blood. Now, we don't know why. That article doesn't tell us why. But at the end of the day, he's pretty lucky to be alive because he could have died.
Well, they've described it as an incompatibility transfusion reaction, which means it's a bit like a car where you've got, instead of driving on Ultimate, you put the super in there, John. So what would that do to your nice car?
It would...
pack up the pistons and engine and everything else.
Exactly.
But it's an incredible story, this, because it seems like such a simple thing that can go wrong. I mean, someone's obviously failed to document it, or there's been a lack of communication.
That's right, or along the way, someone has administered the wrong blood. So whether it was the doctor to the nurse to just someone who worked in the hospital. So
it could even be as simple as someone documenting the wrong letter.
Well, that's right.
On his chart.
Well, that's exactly right. And I mean, this is just one example of so many things that does or can happen in a hospital.
Nadia, O positive blood, is that a special type of blood? Or?
Well, it is a special type of blood, and most of us have our own unique blood. But I guess this person wasn't an O positive blood. It was.
Well, what's so special about the O?
Well, O is a particular type of blood, and they're all called different names, and they've all got different antigens in them, and it's like little particles that come together, and they're made up of different particles, unique to everyone's body. So. Well,
we're all shocked by what happened here, and you're going to be shocked to hear what I'm going to tell you in a minute.
All right.
Viewers, on this subject of hospitals and hospital bungles, there's been a lot of research done by different people, and Geoffrey Braithwaite from The Age on the 18th January 2010 said as follows. He says that every day of every week throughout the world, there's 10,000 disabilities and or deaths from people that have been admitted to hospital.
Look, I think that's around the world. I think the first thing you were to take from that article is that Australia has some of the best hospitals in the world. So that's the first thing I want to say. You may have a different view, but we have some very good trained professionals at our hospitals and allied health professionals. Where error can occur is, yes, with the professionals, but sometimes anything can go wrong, and it could be the person themselves not telling the doctors what they're presenting.
Well, let me take it one step further. Geoffrey Braithwaite says there's a 1 in 10 likelihood of something going wrong in the hospital. And a 1 in 50 possibility of a health system-induced death or major disability. That's pretty...
That's horrific.
High stats.
Yeah, pretty high stats, aren't they, John?
I won't be going into a hospital soon.
In a hurry.
No, but once again, I don't think it's necessarily the doctor. I think sometimes when a patient presents to a hospital, whether it be an emergency ward or whether they're an inpatient, they don't necessarily tell or disclose everything that's wrong with them.
Well, can I just give some examples off the top of my head of some of the things that have happened in Victoria in recent times? There was a lady that went into the Frankston Hospital that was complaining of abdominal pain, and they diagnosed something
that was just totally a few weeks ago, wasn't it?
There was one that was going in there with headaches, and they said she was pregnant.
Yeah,
and she had an aneurysm.
That was terrible.
What happened with that lady that went into the Frankston hospital?
She ended up going back, went to another hospital, and they ended up operating on her brain. She had an aneurysm, John. And she was lucky to be alive because it was touch and go.
Yeah, it was a massive...
And there was a lady that was sent away after her general practitioner sent her to the hospital complaining about her pregnancy. The hospital sent her away recently, and I think she gave stillbirth
She gave birth
in the toilet. In the
yeah,
toilet
that's
of the
right.
hospital.
That's
Oh,
right.
the
And then
Shocking case.
Well, it was another case of a lady that had abdominal pain. She went to emergency.
she was a young girl. That's the
young
story.
girl,
Yeah.
and they kept her waiting 2 hours.
Well,
she went
that's
to the
right.
toilet and she.
And I guess in that case, it was failure to diagnose instantly what she initially presented with. They thought that she was pregnant. But it wasn't. It was.
Was she hemorrhaged in the time that it took to
That's right.
actually treat her?
Yeah, I mean that's terrible. She was left there, and I guess look, that's just one case, but.
How can that occur?
Well,
Nadia?
well,
How
I
can that
guess
occur?
you can go into debate about our hospital systems being overflowing with patients,
But the doctor, her GP, has sent her in this case to hospital to get treatment.
Yeah.
Why would the hospital act the way they did?
well, there's a number of issues. One could be that they were busy at the time, and that's a terrible that's a terrible fact that
No, just on that point, I think
Yeah.
that's a fact because it just looks like there's resources are an issue in a hospital system.
I think that is true. Resources are an issue, but I still think that if someone does present to hospital, that they do need to really not over dramatise what they're presenting with, but do yell and scream and let them know what's going on.
Make it clear.
Make it clear.
What your symptoms and condition is.
Absolutely.
Sadly, my perception of most people that don't speak very good English is that doctors are the be-all and
Yes.
end-all. They know everything. They rock up to a doctor's clinic and they just present and don't say much.
That's right.
Because they
Well-
assume that they'll be able to detect what the problem is.
Well, then, and if you talk about resources, well, then perhaps there should be some translators there because Melbourne is very multicultural. Maybe that's another resource that hospitals do need to look into.
What I think is also controversial from my point of view is that this is my own observations that the system, traditionally you'd go into a hospital, you'd see people walking around with mops and buckets and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
You get into a hospital now, you don't see any cleaners anymore. Things do generally look a bit more filthier than what they did in the past. So
yes,
I
look-
don't know.
Golden staph infections, is that what
that can
we're talking
occur?
about?
Yeah. But look, one thing to note, if you do see a doctor that doesn't wash their hands, or it could be a nurse or anyone that works in the hospitals, don't be afraid to say, well, can you wash your hands, please, before
What, would you do that,
touch me?
Nadia? Would you say
I
that?
would. I'm
Yeah.
very
So
open about things
you're
like that.
recommending to patients to get
To
the
all our
doctors to wash
viewers,
their hands?
yeah, absolutely, because
There you go,
there's
Nadia's tip.
well, that is Nadia's tip, and you shouldn't be embarrassed to ask for that either.
And don't be surprised, Nadia, that there's this article that I've picked out that we're all looking at
Yeah.
that says one of the tips is to get the doctors and nurses to wash their hands.
Viewers,
Absolutely.
we're going to a station break. We'll be back with you shortly in regards to this very important topic.
Stay tuned.